Welcome back. Well, yes, after that announcement, different states have been coming up with their strategies concerning how the schools, how they will get back. But this morning, we've got Professor Shehu Musa, who is the Vice Chancellor, Kano University of Science and Technology, joining us on our studios in Kano. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning, Chris, and good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, so tell us, ever since that announcement, there's been different reactions concerning what to do, what to expect, even from students, from parents. Well, now we've got you. How did you react to that announcement by the PTF about school resumption?
Once again, good morning, Nigerians. Let me first and foremost address some of these issues in a broader way before narrowing to the specific questions that have just been asked. It is a common knowledge that all over the world, various sectors of our economy have suffered, including educational sector. For the last almost 4 months, schools have been closed down. This is not only applicable to Nigeria, but it's applicable to many other countries of the world. No doubt time has been lost in this in our educational journey, and we really need to put our heads together to ensure that we come up with time-saving strategies that will be able to help our educational system forward. I think it's a good news that the final year students have been asked to come back to classes. I'm not sure if my presumption is right. This is dealing with final year students in secondary schools, and then those in junior secondary school that have to take their exam, and those in primary school 6 for common entrance examinations. The tertiary institutions may be difficult to manage only final year students because of the interlaps between at the different levels. While it's a good news that we really need to see to the opening of schools, we also need to work very closely, and I think this is important for me to mention this, that the PTF and then the NCDC needs to work together with the tertiary institutions and all other stakeholders. I know they have been actively engaged with the Federal Ministry of Education, which is the right step in the right direction. And I believe that for tertiary institutions, we also need to look closely as to how we can progressively move in this context. For example, social distancing issues, the use of face masks, the use of hand sanitizers, the use of thermometers to measure temperature, and quite a number of other issues. If you look at it closely, some of these can be addressed by the universities, but I think the issue of social distance, this is something that we critically need to look at it. It's easier for universities to provide face masks. It's easier for universities to provide sanitation items. It's easier to including the hand washing, arrangement, and then the the sanitizer arrangement, and then the thermometer. For example, my university have already come up and invented the solar-powered infrared temperature measuring device that can be used even where electricity is not available. I'm sure your station have actually taken up this innovation and have come out with automatic sanitizers, and the university have also produced sanitizers that actually meet with the World Health Standard. Now, these are easier to manage, but our problems, I think, from all ramification, the issue of social distance may be slightly difficult for universities to operate. Already the classes, especially for larger classes, you need additional spaces, and if you are to group them into, say, group
But could you tell us, when you say you want them to work together, what do you expect from them?
Sorry?
When you say you want the authorities to work together with you, your school, what specifically are you requesting?
No, what the point I'm referring to is if PTF and NCDC will work closely, to understand the availability of the infrastructure and then the size of the classes, then that will now give us an opportunity to say, okay, this is the best way to handle the social distance issues. Like I said, from my understanding, the social distance is a major issue that will be of a big problem to tertiary institutions. If the use of face mask will now satisfy the condition of the social distances, I'm sure many universities will be willing and ready to open and resume classes. But if, however, the use of the face mask must be in 100% compliance with the 1 meter distance or 2 meter distance between students, this is where I see some challenges. This is the kind of information that I'm saying NCDC and PTF need to understand clearly. However, I believe universities are currently working assiduously well in terms of bridging the size issues. For example, online classes can be arranged. Virtually all the students are now having a handset with Android facilities that can easily allow them to hook into the lectures that is being delivered by
we get that point, but we're going to I'd like to ask specifically about what you are doing, the situation with your school at the moment. Are you comfortable to go ahead and reopen schools now?
Well, like I've told you, as far as face masks are concerned, as far as sanitizers are concerned, as far as temperature measuring devices are concerned, I can assure you Kano University of Science and Technology is ready to move on. For smaller classes, Kano University of Science and Technology is ready to move on. What innovations that we really need, which already the university have set up a committee, post-COVID committee, which is being chaired by the Vice Chancellor, and all actors are involved, the Center for Information and Communication Technology, the Management Information System, and all other actors. We are now currently working on modalities of online lectures, and that will now decongest the real theaters and classrooms that you'll be able to work on. So I think from the perspective of Kano University of Science and Technology, I have just mentioned to you that we have invented these two equipment. These are the major equipment that are needed, at least to understand the body temperature of people and to encourage sanitation. So for us, if the social distance issues can be addressed by face mask, like I've told you, the university will be willing to open even next week actually. But if the social distance issue must be religiously applied 100% in terms of 1 person to 2 meter distance space, without the online arrangement, universities may find it very, very difficult to really adhere to those arrangements. In our own case, all the basic places, we can get this, deploy these facilities to be ready. So what we are now working, and I'm sure the committee is working. And fortunately for Kano University of Science and Technology, over the last 2 years, we have started what we call e-examinations. So all our larger classes, the examinations are e-based. So we have no challenges of actually doing the examinations at any point in time. We can take 2,000 students at a time. And I think that is a very good development. We are now trying to even deploy this e-examination.
Just one moment, Prof. There's the question that the organization management has made these provisions, provided all of these facilities. You are concerned, however, despite all of the measures that you've put in place, about social distancing. Is there an arrangement by the school management to monitor social distancing among the students? Because, as you said, that's where the issue is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, there is arrangement on ground to monitor social distance, and that is why I told you we are now trying to deploy the online teaching. With the online teaching, you don't have to be in the classroom. You can be outside, you can be in Convocation Square, and you can access the lectures. And arrangement has gone far on this, and I'm sure the lecturers are also willing to see to the implementation of this. And I can also assure you that the student union government of the university is very cooperative in this regard, and we're working very closely with them to see how we can actually do with the issue of social distance. Other than social distance issue, I can assure you most universities can actually reopen.
When is your school going to reopen?
Hello?
When are you reopening your own school?
We have to get the, detailed guideline from the Federal Ministry of Education, and, and then we have to also get some guidance from the state COVID-19 management, and then the Ministry for Higher Education. We have to wait for their pronouncement, and that will now determine when Senate will meet, and then we'll reconvene, and then we can see how we can actually move ahead. This is not something that universities will take at this moment, individual decisions, until the broader framework is being provided for complete reopening of schools. When the guideline has been given by the NDDC and then through the Federal Minister of Education, and then we also receive the guideline from the State Minister of Higher Education, that will now determine when we can actually say that, okay, this is the exact date we believe that we can reopen the university. But I'm confident that if the NCDC can also assist, and then the PTF can also assist in addressing some of these challenges of social distancing, things can move fine and they will be all right. I'm not sure whether there will be a condition to say that, look, each university or each tertiary institutions must have 1 or 2 or 3 bed isolation center to get fully ready and fully prepared. In our own case, we're already thinking toward that. And in working with the governor of the state, Dr. Morganduji, that has been very supportive of the university, we're trying to see how we can actually have an arrangement within the university that can take care of that. I'm happy also, Mr. Chris, to also inform you that already under this COVID pandemic issue, Kano University of Science and Technology provided the facilities for the establishment of 2 isolation centers, one in the city of Kano here and one at the outskirts of Kano. The Sport Institute has been converted to an isolation center with 340 bed capacity. And then the Hospitality and Tourism Institute that is based in Kano here is being converted to an isolation center with 100 bed capacity. So specifically, Kano University of Science and Technology, we already have some kind of very good working relationship with COVID-19 State Committee in terms of the management of these isolation centers. But my worry is probably if there is the need for other tertiary institutions to really open an isolation
center. So I can
center.
put in this question. Right. It's interesting to hear some of the measures you have put in place, but, it would also be good to know what the university body, the universities in the country, what you have come up with, working together, because there needs to be some form of uniformity across schools so that, we won't drop that standard. So I don't know if there's a thinking in that line for the bodies of universities across the country. Is there a thinking as to the modalities, the guidelines and what have you that are being put in place for uniformity's sakes? And also, I'm just curious. You've talked about having isolation centers in the schools. What's the worst case scenario you're looking at? Because data is quite important in this phase.
No, the case of the isolation center I'm mentioning is that NCDC and PTA will now determine that. If that is a condition for universities to reopen, I'm saying that will now be an additional challenge that needs to be addressed. However, if it's not a condition, then it's subtle the difficulties and the challenges that the university will be facing in terms of reopening. In terms of working together, having a common scenario, it's going to be very difficult in Nigeria for all universities to start on the same day and end on the same day. But I believe there is a time frame for the first semester to be concluded and for the second semester to be concluded. And remember, we have a forum where all these issues can be discussed to look at the possibility of taking somewhat, a common decision for reopening of the university. We have the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian University. This issue, I'm sure, whenever the committee meets, these are some of the issues that will be critically discussed. I believe all universities are trying to now key into how they can actually save time and to reduce the time lost that has already been
If I'm wrong, Prof, from some of what you've said just now, it does appear as though you're saying schools can resume, no problems with that when the universities do agree, but they may not necessarily have to physically be present in schools if you can latch on to the online learning platforms. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, what I'm saying is, now universities having found themselves in this situation, And universities are supposed to be centers of innovation, centers of technology development, centers of strategies that we can be able to address issues that we can even transfer to society. I believe many Nigerian universities are now looking inward to see how they can leverage on the IT issues to really address these issues. And partly, like I have mentioned, you can engage in all these online activities. Many universities have what they call distant learning centers, and this is the best time for distant learning centers to work very assiduously well for the universities. And all universities, I believe, have ICT and MIS arrangement. And all these are platforms that can be deployed fully to really address this issue. And I believe if the federal government, the state government, and all philanthropists in Nigeria can support the universities with the funding in such a way that they can now expand on the deployment of IT in their daily activities, I believe it will go a long way in actually situating the universities and other tertiary institutions properly well in such a way that they can actually deliver on the mandate that has been given to them. This is a clarion call, as many actors are now supporting state governments on this COVID issue. I believe this is the right time to call on philanthropists to see how they can support tertiary institutions in terms of deploying IT facilities that will be able to drive the process. In our own case, I'm happy to let you know that the Chancellor of the University, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, is willing to assist the university in deploying IT that will help in the running affairs of the university. We already have some basic understanding with the Chancellor of the University. And I'm saying people should also emulate such gesture. Philanthropists should come to the aid of the universities for heavy development of IT technologies in our delivery, lectures delivery, in our research, in our community service, in our tutorial arrangement and examinations. I believe if universities will deploy IT technologies, we can be able to reduce the gap that is now apparent in our educational delivery. More so, all proprietors of the university also need to come to their aid. And in that respect, I mean all federal universities, and then in that the state universities will all need to work in synergy. And I think this is the right time for IT agencies in Nigeria to come in. Most likely, we thank Tetifan. They have been doing a lot of work. The current years has done well in terms of research and innovation. And I think my advice to him is to see how they can further support universities in terms of deployment of these IT teaching facilities. And then the NIDA is also there. They really need to expand on the scope of assisting universities with the IT technology. The only way you now reduce this is there has to be deployment of IT. If information and communication technology is not rightly deployed, physical separation and other things may not work as effectively as we want. So it is high time for all hands to be on deck, for all of us to realize that we have lost time, and the best way to regain the time lost is for us to deploy IT technologies and to come to the aid of all tertiary institutions in Nigeria, universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and not only tertiary institutions, but all tiers of education. Government cannot run alone the business of education, especially tertiary education, because it is an expensive process. So well-meaning people need to come on board. International organizations need to come on board. Universities need to work up themselves to come up with suitable arrangement that will enable them to harness the opportunities that are available virtually all over, both within the nation and outside the country. So universities themselves
at the moment, pardon me, Prof. At the moment, it does appear as though, yes, those are big asks. And one wonders, do you think that all of these things will be fulfilled before the schools are open? Do you expect them to? And if you do, when are the committee or is the committee looking to have some of these things all set before they announce the resumption of schools at that level, the tertiary level?
It is just recently that the interstate border has been, addressed, and the issue of air flight has just been, it will be next tomorrow, and not all over the country. And vice chancellors are from all over the country. And actually, you cannot actually risk the fact that everybody will now travel when there was the lockdown issues. But now that the interstate lockdown issues have been addressed, I believe the executive members of the relevant bodies will now make a suitable time for all organs to meet and to discuss areas of common interest. You cannot, jump the gun with the interstate, travel ban. There is no way you can assemble all the vice chancellors to work. But I know that most likely they will also deploy the options of video conferencing, and this is doable and is easier to arrange. It saves time, it saves cost, and I believe the executive members would do same. And apart from the meeting arrangement, the vice chancellors, most of us, we have some, point of personal discussions, and I believe we have rubbing minds with many other vice chancellors of Nigerian universities. So obviously, I think this is something that, with the ease of the lockdown at the moment, things will take better shape. And I believe universities will also take more proactive measures in terms of to see how quickly universities can reopen.
All right, then, Professor Shehu Musa, Vice Chancellor, Kano State University of Science and Technology. Thank you for your time this morning, and we wish you all the best as you work towards reopening.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure always, Mr. Chris. Thank you very much.